Good afternoon. Aloha, everyone. Thank you again for joining the Hawaii Coffee Association webinar series. It's been a long day full of a lot of great information. Before I go ahead and introduce our next panel, I'd like to thank the webinar committee that helped plan these sessions, chaired by Ala Kostenko. Also on that committee are Dave Gridley, Madeline Longoria Garcia, Ross Brittany Horn, Donna Woolley, Maria Holmes, and Abby Munoz. Thanks to all for all their great work in putting this together. A lot of time and effort went into it. Also want to thank our sponsors. We have a number of sponsors. Our platinum sponsor is Savor Brands. Gold sponsor is Bendig. And we have two silver sponsors in Lind Insurance Services and Downtown Coffee. Our next discussion is an update from an organization known as SHAC. SHAC stands for Synergistic Hawaii Agriculture Council and was formed as a collaboration between Hawaii Coffee Association, the Hawaii papaya industry, and the Hawaii floriculture industry. Our speakers are Suzanne Schreiner. Suzanne is the administrator for SHAC. She has 14 years of experience in the implementation and management of environmental science and engineering projects in the state and federal level. She has additional 15 years of experience in Hawaii small business, farmer-to-farmer education, and nonprofit management. She's a second-generation coffee farmer in Kona. Also on the panel today is Ralph Gaston. Ralph is co-owner of Rusty's Hawaiian and Isla Custom Coffees and is currently on the SHAC Board of Directors, where he serves as the secretary. He is one of the board's representatives from the HCA, along with Darwin Inman, where he has served as vice president from August 2015 through July of 2017 and remains a member of the HCA to the present time. Please join me in welcoming Ralph and Suzanne.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Kona. I'm getting some feedback. Are you guys hearing that? I apologize if you are. Okay. Most of you know SHAC. We've been around for a while. I'm also on the HCA board, to mention as part of my bio. And our mission is to unite our members' resources and support the growth of Hawaii agriculture. It's really a sister organization to HCA. We take a little different approach, though. We're looking more at the global aspects of trade and how we can help expand markets and sell more coffee for all of us. So with that, I'd like to show you our membership structure briefly. We have two board members from each organization, Papaya, Floriculture, and Coffee. And I should give a big shout out right now to Ralph and Darwin, as well as Joan Obra. They do a lot of the heavy lifting for coffee, do a lot of the work that makes our program happen. So our SHAC office is based out of Hilo. We have two staff members, and we are registered to get federal grants. So we're looking more above the state level, as I said. So our primary grant is through the U.S. Foreign Ag Service Program, and Ralph is going to talk about a lot of our activities with that. But there's a couple aspects that I want to touch on first, and one is the market access program. This pays for a lot of our specialty events, such as Specialty Coffee Association, and as well as the task grant, which a lot of you were familiar with because for 4 years we had a task grant to help us with the coffee berry borer and to get the subsidy for the Bovaria. So just to update you on the task grant, we're still trying to push. Every year we resubmit the application to see if we can get a fifth and final year for that subsidy. But right now, the feds are looking at the state program, and as long as the state program is active with the subsidy, they're probably not going to step up to fund that fifth year. But that's still a possibility for us down the line. But over the years, I've spent a lot of time talking about our grant program, but I also want to take a step up from that and look at the other aspects that SHAC works with, and that's the regulatory and trade. Through SHAC and our relationship with the Foreign Ag Service, we spend a lot of time talking with our ag trade offices, which are in embassies around the world. And this is something that we can do for you. If your business is looking to expand in Japan, for example, we can put you in touch with the trade officers in Japan who can help streamline your entry into that market if you're not sure how to get permits or what phytosanitary requirements are needed. We can connect you with those people, whether it's in China, Japan, Europe. SHAC doesn't have to be actively working in that market. We have those relationships and we'll connect you. So please feel free to reach out to me at any point if you need help with that. Some of the other issues you're working with, we're working with, you may be familiar with the pyrethrin issue in Japan. This is where we've had some shipments rejected because farmers have used pyrethrin that has a chemical in it that Japan has no tolerance for. It's called a maximum residue level. So thanks to SHAC, we've elevated those discussions on the MRL all the way up to the bilateral trade talk level through the US Trade Representative Offices out of DC. And this is something as small farmers, we often think, I have this issue, I don't know how to deal with it, it's way above my head, and this is where SHAC can step in and help. So just be aware that you're not alone out there, that our job really is to help smooth these exports that you have. Another example is with Hawaii papaya. We are working to get import permits into China, and we've used our congressional staff, such as Tulsi Gabbard's office, to sit down with the Japanese ambassador to smooth out some issues we've had. And most recently with COVID, we're working with USDA to get coffee on the food product list, so making it eligible for governmental agencies to use their budget to purchase our Hawaiian coffees. So we do a lot of things just besides the grant, and I'll move more into the grant discussion now. With our 2020 funding, obviously a lot is in flux because of COVID, but we started the year with 83,000 from USDA, targeting specifically China and Taiwan buyers. We had the SCA show. SHAC typically funds that booth every year, with Taiwan trade show later in the year. Ralph will talk about a reverse trade mission we're looking at for early next year. And also we're developing a generic marketing program. So we as SHAC can create a buyer list of Taiwanese buyers that we can let everyone in the industry have access to, so you know who to reach out to sell your coffee. At this point, I also want to give a shout out for companies looking for more specific and tailored programs for your brand. An aspect of the market access funding is through an organization called WUSADA. Sharon Herds can help with this at the Department of Ag, but WUSADA has an excellent website. And if you're an individual company who wants to market in China, wants to market in Belgium, wants to market in Brazil, WUSADA can provide you individual funding for that. So all of this has a cost, obviously, but it's a very low one. It costs HCA $8,300 a year to support the SHAC program. So we have a very low overhead, and we do this very cheaply on your behalf. So this slide may not show up very well, but we pull a lot of data for our annual programs. People always ask me, why did we choose China? Why did we choose Taiwan? Why didn't we go to Japan? And the reason for that is when we looked at all the numbers, Ralph, Joan, and I, 2 years ago, crunched a lot of the data, and Taiwan looked like a market that had a lot of opportunities. Japan's a well-built market when it comes to Hawaii coffee. Taiwan, not so much. There's a lot of opportunities there. So we pull that data from USDA websites. We also have access to Euromonitor, which is another data source for us. And this is another thing we can offer you as an individual company, is we can use these sources. If you have questions about trade in these countries, send me an email and we can work out how we can get the information you need to enter these countries successfully. So another aspect that SHAC works with is we work closely with PBARC on a lot of programs. Right now we have a 3-year contract with Luis to do frequent harvesting research. And hopefully you've been tuning in to the USDA webinars. He gave an excellent presentation on that a few weeks ago. He found without spraying and just using frequent harvesting, he was able to keep his damage at about 3% on some of these farms. Of course, we know the reality in Hawaii right now is labor is one of our big issues. So there's a balance there that we're struggling to find, but that's another aspect that SHAC is working with. So we have a few other grants in the works with PBARC, which hopefully will come through. One is to work with nematodes and a soil treatment, and some other things on disaster relief out of the Puna side with lava ongoing. But I want to give a lot of time to Ralph here, so I'll wrap it up here. You can see my email there at the bottom. Feel free to email me if you have any questions or have trade questions or need help with anything. That's really what we're here for, is to help our members. So with that, Ralph, I'll let you take it over. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Suzanne, and thank you for all the work that you do, and you're continuing to do with us. If you don't know, folks, Suzanne is an invaluable resource both with the HCA and also with SHAC, helping everything going. Let's see. I think I'm not sure which slide to push here to get this started. So I'm going to let Ala start, and then, now I know where to go. So what I wanted to walk everyone through briefly is the current market access program for HCA and our plans for the rest of 2020 and 2021. And I wanted to kind of give a framework of why we are where we are and what made us decide on this market. When SHAC first started back in 2012, our target market was Canada. And there were a couple of reasons for that, mostly that we'd had familiarity with the Hawaii coffee in Canada, but we were looking to grow a little bit more. But when I started working on SHAC, which is about 2015, I think the Canada market wasn't as dynamic as we were hoping for it to be for a number of reasons. And so in 2018, we all started talking about making a change, and we decided to change to this target market. We wanted to reorient to get into the Asia market. All the statistics showed that the growth potential for clients who was going to be on that side of the Pacific Rim as far as exports. And as Suzanne mentioned, because Japan and Korea were considered matured markets, they were not what FAS wanted us to focus on as far as finding a market to develop and grow access to. So the goal going into this was to use Taiwan in particular as an opening to not only mainland China, but to other markets in Asia secondarily. Because it's very much tied in with the trend-setting aspects of the Asia side of the Pacific Rim, you can get buyers who come from Seoul, Singapore, Tokyo, in addition to Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Macau, etc. So we started that market switch in April of 2019 with an initial visit to the market. They had an ATO reverse trade mission to Taiwan. And when we were there, we were able to meet some buyers and kind of get an initial sense of what they thought of Hawaii and get an initial sense of what they knew about the market as far as how it would sell there as well. Our Hong Kong travel was postponed. We were supposed to go in September for a trade mission there as well, but with some political instability, we had to hold off on that. And we did make a visit to the Taiwan trade show in November. I'll talk about that a bit more on my next slide. We had some ongoing plans for this year. We had a lot of activities planned for this year based on what we had learned. But with everything going with COVID-19, obviously, that had to be delayed and changed around a bit. To give you a sense of what we learned in our 2 trips to the Taiwan market, and in that picture you see Chris, our president, and myself, and Madeline Longoria Garcia. And we were the HCA members that made the trip to the Taiwan Coffee Show last November to get a really in-depth look at the show and get a secondary look at the market itself. What we found is that there's a lot of interest in Hawaiian coffee and Hawaiian products. Hawaii's general brand name is still a good, strong commodity across the Pacific Rim. The interested parties, however, don't know most of the growing regions. We had a meeting of about 40 people, and we kind of presented who the HCA is and what Hawaiian coffees are. Did an informal poll. All 40 of them knew Kona coffee in one way or the other. I'd say about 7 or 8 of them knew Ka'u. No one knew any of the other regions. So that was one big obstacle we knew we had to tackle, is general knowledge of Hawaiian coffee regions and what they have to offer. The second thing that we realized was going to be marketing, because price and quality are very big factors in the Taiwanese market. They get pitched coffees from all over the world. It's a very hot specialty coffee market. So Panama Geishas, Colombia, Kenya, Ethiopia, anywhere that's doing high-rated coffees, you're going to see their booths at the Taiwan Coffee Show, very much like you'd see it at the SCA show. So we realized that the marketing of our coffee was going to be key. Quality always matters, especially with the price point of Hawaiian coffees, but also promotion of regions, tasting and cupping events, and creating a personal connection and a business-to-business connection that they could sell was going to be key to growing our coffee in the market. Here's a couple of pictures from the meeting that we had at the Coffee and Tea Show. Chris was one of the presenters, and as you can see, they have hula troops there, much as in Japan. So there's a very strong connection between Taiwan and Hawaii culturally, and it's something that we can definitely build on. With that, I did want to talk about the MAP events that we have planned as of right now. And as with everything, it's subject to change as events unfold as far as COVID-19 is going. The first one I wanted to mention was the SCA Expo. The Expo is something that is part of our Shack portfolio and our MAP program. It is an event that's done in the mainland US. However, because 40% of the attendees generally are international, we are able to cover the Expo under the MAP program as a kind of an outward-facing way to showcase Hawaii coffee to the world. We'll have a 20 by 20 booth plan this year, just like we were planning to do in Portland had it happened. And we'll have more updates as that event approaches. It's a long way off, and again, subject to change as events unfold nationwide. We have 2 reverse trade missions planned, and this was a result of some of the work that we did to learn about the Taiwanese coffee market. The first one we had planned was for Oahu and the Big Island. We want to bring 10 to 15 buyers and industry decision makers from our target markets, all 3 of them, China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And we're focusing on interested buyers. A lot of them be looking to buy coffee at some kind of volume. Some might be looking for smaller but longer lasting relationships, or a bit of both. But what we want to do is have them visit farms, roasters, and processors to meet as many as they can for a 5 to 7 day visit, so that they can have a firsthand knowledge of the different regions that we have here, what makes them unique, what's special about them, what can they bring back to tell a story to their clientele back in Taiwan and China, etc. Right now, we are focusing on having that happen either next spring or next fall. One of the nice things about this is that we have a partnership with DBET, the Department of Business, Economics, Development, and Tourism, and they are helping to pay for some of the costs for this mission, so that they're kind of connecting with Shack and HCA to promote some sales. And that's something that I was really happy to have happen, to get the statewide buy-in in addition to what we're doing. The second part of this mission will be from Maui and Kauai, and we wanted to split them up to make sure that the regions had time to really showcase themselves to the buyers and vice versa. We didn't think it would serve anyone to have buyers hopping on the 4 islands over a 7-day stretch. And they're just kind of in and out like a tour bus, and they don't really get to meet anyone or get to know anything. So we're going to bring buyers to those regions similar to the Oahu and the Big Island trip, and looking to foster relationships again to provide knowledge of the growing regions. Our goal is to get the buyers face to face with as many people in the industry as possible so that they can make direct connections and start to generate sales between the membership and the buyers, and grow the Hawaii Coffee name that way in our target markets. The last thing that I have on the list before I open it up and answer as many questions as possible is the Taiwan Coffee Show that's set for 2020. As of now, that show is still scheduled. Taiwan has had a long period of time, almost 2 months, where they have been COVID-19 free. As with any other country, that's subject to change any time. So right now the show is scheduled. However, we have had discussions with the organizers, and if it's not possible for us to travel, or if they have travel restrictions on people who are coming in internationally, we would be able to move our funding and our plans to the 2021 show. In any case, when we do go back to Taiwan and showcase, we also want to generate more attention for Hawaii Coffee around our show appearance by having cupping events beforehand, and maybe a couple of other special events if possible beforehand, to really generate a buzz about Hawaii Coffee there and introduce all of the growing regions, as I've said before. These are a couple of the bigger items Darwin, Suzanne, and I are really working on. We also are trying to work on additional plans to get some of the changing dynamics of the way people are buying in China, just like in the U.S., and bring that to what we're doing here at Shack. For instance, a lot of people, as you can imagine, are buying online a lot more. So there are some opportunities to potentially do visual or virtual, I should say, um, trade shows, where maybe we can showcase our products by sending the product to a trade show and having them connect with us virtually and have a one-on-one connection that way. We have meetings set up with the ATOs of all 3 of our target markets, and that's coming up next month, early next month. And so we'll be able to get a really good sense of what each market looks like right now and how we can alter our plans. But our ultimate goal is to make sure that we give as many opportunities for these buyers to connect with you guys in the industry as possible, and continue to grow the relationship both ways so it's beneficial to everyone. I think on behalf of Darwin, mahalo from myself, and I'm happy to answer any questions, as I'm sure Suzanne is, about what we're trying to do here at Chat.
Thanks, Rob. Ralph and Suzanne. I have one. Is there any concern about the uncertainty relating to trade barriers to China vis-a-vis tariffs?
You want me to answer, Suzanne, or you want to go first? I'm sorry, you're muted. Okay.
Take that one.
The short answer is yes. It's a fluid situation, as I'm sure we all know. There could be a possibility of trade barriers getting even more restricted between China and the U.S. as things are ongoing. The good part about our plan right now is that the Taiwan market is very open to the United States and has traditionally been so. So for the time being, we can continue to work to generate interest and generate sales in Taiwan. And it is a decent sized coffee market, and it's a good trend setting market for us. I think in the future, if trade worsened and we needed to make a change, we could take what's going on politically and bring it to FAS and foster such a change. But picking a new market takes a lot of research and a lot of time, so it's not necessarily something we can just do unilaterally or quickly or on a whim. We'd have to have evidence of a move and then evidence of where we want to go next and a reason.
Okay. I have a question from, go ahead, Suzanne.
So just to add on to that, I think last year we sold about $80,000 of green and roasted coffee to Taiwan and only about $280,000 to mainland China. So when you look at the size differential there, Taiwan has a lot of room for growth.
Okay. I have a question from Miles. I know the answer, but I will ask it to the panel. And the question is, why aren't we targeting the east coast of America? The U.S. is the largest importer of coffee. I would think the U.S. would be a primary target.
Well, that's an excellent question. And our money comes from the Foreign Ag Service. So they are focused on the trade balance using U.S. agricultural products to get them to the greater world. So this is one of the benefits of using SHAC funding for like the SCA show. When we go to SCA, we're really targeting the Asian buyers who are there, but we also benefit from everyone else who's at SCA, which includes that East Coast and West Coast market. FAS doesn't typically allow us to spend money within the US because they're really looking for exports.
Yeah, let me add to that, Miles. The HCA recently authored a marketing plan that does precisely what you suggest. We've applied for a county innovation COVID recovery grant. We hope we're awarded those funds, and we want to pair that with some other funds and do a pretty comprehensive social media marketing campaign to get Hawaiian coffee in front of buyers in targeted cities across the country. So we hope to be rolling that out soon. I think that'll be a critical part of our recovery. Okay, any more questions? Well, thanks, Ralph, and thanks, Suzanne. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, Savor Brands, Bendig, Lind Insurance, Downtown Coffee. If you like what you see, Ala's going to put up a Contribute Now button. You can help us by supporting this series and future series. Videos of all the segments will be available on the website. And our next session will be tomorrow. That's at 9:30 a.m. Very interesting discussion, Hawaii in a global market, with Joan Obra of Rusty's Hawaiian and Marcus Young of Boot Coffee, and that will be moderated by Madeline Longoria Garcia. I want to thank all the presenters today, the board of the HCA, all the committee chairs, particularly the webinar committee, chaired by Ala and populated by Dave Gridley, Madeline Longoria Garcia, Ross Uehara Tilton, Brittany Horn, Donna Woolley, Maria Holmes, and Abby Munoz. Tune in again tomorrow. We have a full slate of speakers ranging from, we have SCA chapter update. We have Phyllis Shimbukuro Geyser will be speaking at 2 o'clock. She's the chairperson of Hawaii Department of Agriculture, and we wrap up the day at 3 with USDA Rural Development. The director of that in Hawaii and Pacific region is Brenda Iokepa-Moses, a friend to many of us. And again, don't miss the first session tomorrow at 9:30, Hawaii in a global market. So thank you all. Let me see if there are any last questions. I think we're good. So nice job, everybody. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Aloha.
Aloha.